You like that? You like that?
You lollygag the ball around the end. You lollygag your way down to first. You lollygag in and out of the dugout. You know what that gets you. Larry.
Lollygag.
Later, he gets the rebound, passes it to the man, shoots it, and boom goes the dynamite.
Rick Vaughn gets the starting call today. We're told he matured a lot over the winter. Apparently, he's bathing now.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
All right, you're listening to 102.7 FM. I am Brandon Hansen, the Sports Grump, and we're here with Dylan Kitzan in Spokane and Aaron Van Tuyl over in Centralia, two sports writers. And this is a change. This is a busy sports day. We have a ton of news to talk about, a lot happening, a lot of big news. And the first thing I think we should talk about, because it's happening right now as we're recording this, Major League Baseball opening night, Yankees and Nationals got rained out, and the LA Dodgers and San Francisco Giants are playing right now. A big ginger on the mound is doing a good job for the Dodgers. Dustin May has got a 6-slider. Boy, did any of you guys catch that first pitch by Dr. Fauci? It's all over Twitter, and it may beat out 50 Cent for the worst first pitch ever. It was quite far and quite short. Did any of you guys catch that at all there?
I did.
I did. I saw the clip of it. It was not a very on target pitch, but Dr. Fauci's like, he's getting up there. He's like, what, late 70s, 80 years old? He's got a lot going on too, so I'm sure he wasn't as focused as he could be on throwing out a pitch in a baseball game.
I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one and say he was throwing that ball back to the dugout just to get a new one. He didn't like the grip, and so he was trying to get a new ball. But I can only hope that was what he was doing, because it was not pretty.
Is this worse than 50? I don't know. I feel like 50 in his horrible first pitch that's made YouTube fame, he just lost the ball, like it slipped out. That is my story for 50 Cent there. Do you think this is worse than 50?
Oh, no, 50s was way worse. I mean, 50 Cent, built a lot of his brand on being a big, ripped, athletic-looking fella, and he's played, big tough guys in movies and stuff, and he's not our preeminent, virologist.
He might be, I don't know.
Approaching the age of 80. So, yeah, I feel like the expectations were probably a lot higher for 50 Cent throwing a baseball 60 feet, 6 inches than Dr. Fauci.
I've never seen 50 Cent's first pitch that you guys are talking about, but the one I kind of remember is I don't even know who it was. It was a pretty lady. I don't know what she did or how she was famous, but she threw out the first pitch of the game once, and there was a photographer standing off to the side to catch some pictures of it, and she hit him below the belt with the first pitch. So
I believe
that's
was
the worst one
Ray.
I've ever seen. I can't say Dr. Fauci's was worse than that, and I think the photographer in this specific instance would probably agree with me. So,
Mariah Carey had a really bad one, and Carly Rae Jepsen had a pretty awful one too. So did Carl Lewis, actually.
Oh yeah. He had a pretty terrible rendition of the national anthem once as well.
It was not a great day at the ballpark for Carl.
Dr. Fauci's in good company.
Okay, so we'll give him a pass on this here. So the first really big news of the day, let's talk about this. The NHL expansion team has been announced, team name-wise in Seattle, and it's the Kraken, which we kind of heard rumors of this when Seattle was, getting their act together for the expansion team, and this name was passed around quite a bit. So it's not a surprise to some. A lot of people had opinions about it, and it's very divisive. I have seen either you love it or it's the worst thing ever. Dylan, you're the only guy in here that probably watches a lot of hockey. So you probably have the strongest, let's say, pedigree to comment on this. So when you saw the Kraken, you saw the sweet S with the tentacle in it and stuff. What did you think? And did you think that was a good name for a Seattle franchise?
It's funny that you mentioned you either love it or you hate it, because I've talked to my brother and a few of my friends today, and my buddies and I are just absolutely on board with this. And we think the coolest thing about it is that they actually reached out to a lot of their prospective fans and kind of got input and wanted to know, like, hey, what would you guys like to see, you know? And so they had a lot of input in this decision. And I saw on ESPN today, they had like 1,200 different team names they were kicking around. It was an insane amount. And but everyone seemed to be on board with this. The logo looks fantastic. It kind of fits in with this new wave of, like, you know, mixing it up a little bit, just fun names. You know, the NHL has some of the best names in hockey as far as professional sports are concerned. And this is right up there with any of them. The logos look fantastic. You know, they have the cool S with the red little, I think it's supposed to be an eye just looking out, very intimidating. And then I don't know if you've seen their secondary logo, but it's basically an anchor, but the middle of the anchor that pops up is the Space Needle. And it gives it a really cool Seattle touch. I think they did just a fantastic job. You know, my brother, he's on the hate it side. He said he's staying a Flyers fan, but I can't wait for them to roll out next year. I think they did a fantastic job.
Now, Aaron, you're the closest to Seattle out of all three of us here. So how is Lewis County responding to this? Have any commissioners released Facebook posts blaming the governor for the Kraken or anything like that? What's the reaction in the southern Olympia area?
A lot of people are already making the jump to calling the fans the Seattle Crackheads. But there's a lot of skepticism. There's not a lot of hockey fans in Lewis County. There's
shocking. What?
Yeah, there is. I think the closest hockey rink to here is like in Kent, maybe. So that's 2 hours away. So most people are just like kind of laughing their way through it, and we have hockey now, neat, and we're the Kraken, whatever. I think it's a pretty sweet mascot, really. The logo's cool. The colorways are cool. It's unique. One terrible comparison I saw was somebody complaining about it in the same vein that, like, the Mighty Ducks named their team after something in a movie, or the Toronto Raptors had that stupid cartoon dinosaur after Jurassic Park came out. This is not that. This is a lot better. This is going to age a lot better. It's unique. It's a mythical beast. It's something from the sea, and Seattle has the sea right there in its name. It's on the water. So I think it's a perfect fit. It's a little offbeat. It's kind of cool, just like Seattle.
I did hear one complaint. Somebody was saying, well, Seattle has no Kraken, so why is this being used in the mascot? And I don't think they got the memo that it actually doesn't exist. Although it could. We've got Bigfoot here. So
I mean, we went over this last time. Like, having that particular mascot in your city is not a requirement or anything.
Just because they haven't found it doesn't mean it's not there. So we can't completely rule that out either. I
also saw somebody take the whole logo scheme and turn it into the Seattle Karens, which I thought was hilarious. So switch the names, put a nice little haircut on the S, and it looked fantastic. So maybe that can be an alternative jersey night. So how do you feel about these jersey reveals and things like that? The jerseys look awesome to me. They look a lot like the Tennessee Titans color scheme and like kind of their uniform scheme. It does look like the Titans. So obviously I will jump right on board with this. Some of the complaints I heard was just that, like you said, the Crackheads, and then they can call the Climate Pledge Arena the Crack House and things like that. But being a sports fan, I have a lot worse nicknames for other teams. I just think, your opposing fan bases are going to come up with these names anyways. So there's no way you can escape it. Dylan, do you have horrible names for your rival teams that that your favorite teams are playing?
Oh, sure. Nothing I can say on the air, but I mean, I have some good ones. The Yankees. I thought of everything under the sun for those guys. And the Red Wings are we like to call them the Dead Wings when they're not doing too well, and now's a good time to jump on that ship. But that's just rivalries in sports. That's what you're going to get. Everyone's going to be looking for a little edge, whether it be chirping or whatever it is. So I'm sure the Seattle Crackheads or whatever is just the tip of the iceberg as far as the creativity is going to come from places like Vancouver and Colorado once we get on the ice against them. So.
And other than Vancouver, this is going to be the closest team for quite some area. Like they have a big market they're kind of dropping in here with the West Coast. I didn't realize this till they showed the MLB travel pods, because, teams aren't traveling outside their region. And Seattle is like doing a whole gigantic loop around the Western United States here. So it's kind of funny. Seattle will kind of cover an entire geographical area, at least in the U.S. there. I know Vancouver is right across the border. So along with this sports day, we got some big local Washington news yesterday when the WIAA announced that it is, and they are the high school sports kind of reigning organization for the postseason. And they announced they are switching seasons, moving things around. So we're going to have 4 high school sports seasons in Washington this upcoming year. And the only sport really coming up in the fall is going to be cross country. Winter sports are going to be regular. The big one is football and volleyball is moving to the early spring season, and then your regular spring sports will have kind of a late spring schedule kind of deal there. So I looked at it, and in my opinion, this is the only way you could do it and save sports from actually happening, because we are not playing a whole lot of sports in the fall. I think cross country gets a pass because you can do staggered starts, things like that, to keep those runners separate. And, it's just not like a contact sport like football or volleyball, which is on a small court, and you're just not going to get away with being very far away from people there. So, Aaron, you served on the WIA's seating committee, so you kind of know the politics that go a little bit into, deciding statewide things. When you saw that announcement, what did you think? Obviously, you covered a lot of Lewis County sports teams there. How did you feel about that 4-season setup and kind of only having cross country going into this fall?
The obvious thing everybody's kind of coming up with is it's better than the alternative of just leaving fall sports in the fall and canceling them, because they would be canceled within, a few weeks or whatever it might be from now, if they were to leave them there. It's good that they made a decision and moved things. And I kind of like the decision. One thing it does is, first of all, it preserves having all the sports this year, theoretically, even though they're a little bit out of order. And it affects baseball and softball and just pushes them back a little bit, right?
Right.
And so, that's not a bad move by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you covered sports in the western half of the state in the spring, and the first, 5-6 weeks of baseball, softball season are watching the weather all day to see if you're going to get rained out. And so moving those back to start a little bit later is not going to be the worst thing. That's actually probably a pretty smart move. Beyond that, it sucks that there's not going to be Friday Night Lights in the fall, but what are you going to do? These are pretty unprecedented times. And if you're sitting around complaining about how terrible it is that your, fall sports season got screwed up, then, maybe put things in perspective a little bit and look around. It could be a lot worse. You're finally getting to do it. At least you're not one of the kids who was playing this year and didn't get to have a spring season at all or anything like that. So, yeah, I think it's a smart move. I think people are going to eventually gravitate towards that kind of opinion on it once the overall surprise of officially hearing it has settled in. And, I think it'll all work out.
Dylan, you're a little bit separate from the high school scene, so you probably don't have as much invested in this. But just as a casual sports fan, hearing that, there's not going to be high school football in the fall, but rather the spring, just how does that sound? I mean, it's a tradition to have high school football in the fall, same time, college and the pros are. So does that seem a little bit weird having it in the spring there?
It does. And, on paper, it's obviously not the ideal circumstance, but like Aaron said, these are unprecedented times. And I think that it's really great to have the creativity to be able to move things around like this and still give kids the opportunity to play, because, there's a lot that goes into this, not just, some kids are looking for scholarships or they want to go to the next level. So they might be interested in doing that and not have that last opportunity as seniors to get to do that. But, people are getting stir crazy. They haven't been able to do the things that they love to do. So it's just nice to be able to not completely write it off, to be like, hey, we know you love to play in the fall. It's that time of year and it's not going to be able to happen right now, but we're going to try to make it happen down the road, And so to be able to give them that opportunity to find that flexibility is huge. It's nice that they're able to kind of keep some of the socially distanced sports like cross country going in the fall here, knock them out, that way, people can still do that, be able to run, all that kind of stuff, maintain safety. Obviously that's kind of the most important thing to focus on right now. But, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal that this is being put, football and volleyball are being pushed off later. Seasons are getting shortened or pushed back or whatever. Like, the most important thing is that they get to be able to play, and to find the creativity and flexibility to be able to do that, I think is just awesome at this level.
One question I have is, you're going to have a football season, and then that's going to roll right into baseball season. These are shorter seasons to look at in terms of length. I'm just wondering, if you get a bunch of kids banged up in that early spring season, do you have enough time to have them heal up for your baseball team or your track and field team? Do you Aaron, think that could be a problem in terms of, hey, you have a rough football season, and in the winter, that winter season's a little bit interesting in terms of it starts and then it stops for Christmas break. So you do get kind of a gap, and kids get more healed up. Do you think that this short season right after another is going to cause some issues for that final baseball season and softball season there?
I mean, not too much. Like, going from volleyball to softball isn't going to be a huge stretch. Like, volleyball is a contact sport, but it's not football or anything like that. And moving into baseball and softball are not they're not as athletic of sports as football is. They're not contact sports. You're not running 100% of the time or anything like that. I would be more concerned about going from like football to soccer or something like that, actually. But no, I don't think you're not going to need that huge of a recovery time. If you're in football shape, you'll be in good enough shape to play, baseball. And if you're in volleyball shape, you'll be in good enough shape to play softball. So I think they'll be all right. I don't see that as being a major issue.
Now, do you guys, just with your personal opinions on the virus and how things are going, do you think we will have to stop the season or anything like that? I know the fall has a nice little clause where they could move that fall season into that early spring season if things get canceled and stuff. So that's a nice contingency plan. And we might not actually have sports till the end of the year, or the beginning of next year kind of deal. So that was a nice little feature. They bought themselves more time by planning this. But do you see sports, even just cross country, being played in the fall there? And Dylan, do you see that? Just in your general opinion, do you think we can pull this off? And also, I'll throw it in there, since you're a pro guy, do you think we'll see college and pro football being played in the fall as well?
Well, I'm in the camp of saying there won't be any pro and college football played this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think that kind of where we're at with this, everything going on with the virus. And I mean, you see cases kind of blowing up all over, especially in the South right now. And even in Washington State right now, numbers are on the rise. It's one thing to be able to put basketball in a bubble and kind of sequester everyone there. It's another thing to have 53-man rosters and coaches and players and like just everything, trainers, everything that goes into that. It's kind of hard to, shut off that many people from everything else. So I think as long as the virus is kind of trending up like it is, it's going to be hard, especially for pro and college sports. As far as high school is concerned, the problem I see with high school sports is, they don't have the resources to be able to do obviously what the pros can, where, you can just kind of shut them off from society. High school students are, hopefully getting together with their friends as safe as they can, and they're around family and everything like that. But it's just, it's tough times, and it's impossible because, all it takes is one at this point. You get one person infecting somebody else, and it's a wildfire. So I'd like to think that, high school sports will be played, and it's a little different with cross country just because I feel like you can socially distance a little better, and you're outdoors and you have a lot of stuff going for you there. But, if I'm being honest, I'm not very optimistic that fall sports will happen, or the season one sports will happen here.
All right, Aaron, how do you feel about this? And how do you feel about high school sports? And do you think we're going to see college or pro football being played in the fall there?
College, I mean, the odds are not looking great. Just with the number of, outbreaks on college campuses with limited players coming back for practices and things like that, it doesn't sound great. The pros, I mean, far be it from the NFL to put their players at risk for profit.
I've never heard of that.
If they can come up with a way to compensate the players and at least present the smokescreen of safety, I'm sure they'll be able to get some football in.
Well, Aaron, I'm going to stop you right there. They did stop the after-game jersey exchange in a safety because, a full game of hitting each other is not bad, but, that jersey exchange is going to spread the virus everywhere.
Yes. Well, I mean, case closed then. You wrap this one up. Football's back, baby. So, yeah, I could see the NFL getting some games played and getting their season underway. Under the guise of safety, whether or not it actually is safe. As far as high school goes, they've done a pretty good job of coming up with a contingency plan and moving things around. And right now, I could see if school goes back, which is also pretty heavily in doubt.
Yep.
I could see him busting out cross country or even tennis or something like that for your fall sports. Cross country feels like it would be fairly easy to get done. I don't know if you just have kids run more heats to a varsity race than just everybody run at once or something like that. But it feels like the kind of thing that could get done if they really wanted it to and really worked at it. But yeah, I mean, it's also so far up in the air and it feels like it's a long ways up. It's only a month away. And looking at it like that, how much have things improved since June 24th. I don't feel like they've gotten all that much better. We've been just kind of rolling along on the same weird track. And so something big is going to happen, or something big is going to have to happen between now and the end of summer for all this stuff to actually go. And, when you think about it like that, it seems fairly unlikely.
And that's the thing about cross country is they usually rely on big invites with a lot of teams there, a lot of people. So what we're going to see is smaller meets and those staggered starts. I just don't think it'll look like a normal race there. So yeah, I guess we'll see. Also, big news today, the Washington Education Association, or basically the teachers union, came out and said they do not recommend returning back to school in Washington. So that's a story that is developing. We'll see how that happens. If teachers are saying we don't want to return to the school building, that complicates things ever so slightly. So we'll just have to see how that works, and if the WIAA is going to go ahead with, okay, well, if people are learning online, we'll still meet and play sports kind of deal. So it seems a little bit of a double standard there. So complicated news. Let's talk about a less complicated story. But very weird one. Mike Tyson, he's back. He's actually going to box, and he is going to box Roy Jones Jr. And this news was like the cherry on top, looking at all the news spreading around in this sports day here. So you have, I believe, Tyson's 54, Roy Jones Jr. is 51. And these guys are going to duke it out. And I immediately thought of, I think it's like Rocky 5 or something that came out. No, maybe Rocky 6. I've lost count. Anyway, the one Rocky where Sylvester Stallone is like 50 or 60, and he comes back to box a boxer in his prime. And I believe he wins. I never saw that one. And
is that Rocky Balboa?
Yes. I think. Sorry, I lost count of the movies because he made like 20 of them. I always thought that was a bit unrealistic, but now we're seeing, boxing do exactly what that movie did. So, Aaron, are you going to buy this fight? Are you going to watch the heck out of this?
There's a lot of entertainment options right now and a lot of things to be going and doing. But yeah, I mean, that sounds cool. I'm also, as long as the pay-per-view comes with the undercard, did you see who the undercard is?
Nate Robinson.
Yeah, the undercard is Nate Robinson is going to box YouTube star Jake Paul.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, then that's an automatic buy right there.
So, yeah, I would much rather see Nate Robinson just go to town on Jake Paul And then if you get to see Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. go at it after that, then hey, great. Yeah, that sounds like a cool card. I will buy that.
Dylan, how do you feel about this?
You know, I'm not a huge boxing guy. I've been kind of invested in the Wilder Fury stuff lately, but in general, I'm not a big boxing guy. But I've seen those clips recently of Mike Tyson just throwing hands, and I know it's warm-ups and practices and all that kind of stuff, but he looks lightning quick. I mean, you blink twice, or you blink once, and you're getting hit twice the way he's going. And I know he's 54, but he looks good. And so you know, I'm less interested in him fighting Roy Jones Jr. and more interested in him fighting some of these not top tier guys like Wilder and Fury, but like I want to see him against some of these guys that are in their prime right now, the way he's throwing hands. But we'll start with Roy Jones Jr. We'll see what happens. You know, Roy Jones Jr. is one of the greatest of all time back in his day. So I mean, it'll be entertaining if nothing else, and I'd be interested to see that. But you know, Tyson's got a lot going for him. He's got this fight on the rise, and he's been big in the all elite wrestling scene, wanting to fight Chris Jericho. So at his age, if this doesn't pan out, you know, he's got a lot going for him here. So he'll fall just fine if Roy Jones Jr. gets the best of him. But yeah, I'm absolutely interested in what this might bring.
What's it with boxing? Like, they only seem to have these matchups when both boxers are just over the hill. Like, I don't know what it is, but boxing just has not had big matchups. They can never bring the two best guys together or anything. The Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather fight was way overdue and to the point where it was pointless to even hold that. But now we have Mike Tyson, 2 50-year-old guys fighting. Is this the best boxing can do now? Is it one of those sports that this is all we can do?
That is the best boxing can do now. Yes, it is. Remember the last big boxing match? It was like
no, I don't. I don't remember.
Wilder Fury.
Yeah, it was Mayweather and Conor McGregor.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was Conor McGregor. You were right. Yep.
That was fun.
That was the big. Like, is boxing just a gimmick now? Is that all it is? Because it just seems like it's a card now. That's all they do.
I think it kind of operates better as a gimmick. Like, it should just be used. Like, the biggest pay-per-view should just be like two celebrities fighting each other.
I think they already had that. It's called Celebrity Deathmatch. I think that was actually a show.
It was a good show, but
I'm telling you what, if you're into boxing, and like I said, I'm not, but there between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, some of these are Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Between those guys, there's still some top tier boxing going on, and the thing is, big names are always going to draw a crowd. I don't care if they're 53 or not, or 54 or not. You know, you say Mike Tyson, I'm going to want to watch him fight, especially after what I saw him doing earlier. So don't hate on boxing right out of the gate. I mean, it's still got some stuff going for him. And if you're into that kind of thing, I promise you'll be entertained, whether it's this fight or Nate Robinson fighting or whoever else.
I'm just being mean today. There's another news item that I'm also making fun of. The NFL team in Washington has changed their names officially to the Washington football team as a placeholder in 2020. And I'm making fun of that too, because that kind of sounds like something from Community, where it was the Greendale Community College Human Beings. Now it's the Washington football team. That's the actual name. So I don't know how you can be a professional franchise and do this. And I'm kind of speechless on this. I don't know what to say about that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Do you guys got any other takes than that's stupid?
I think
I saw it earlier, and I like the abbreviation of WFT, because you can easily flip it around to the more appropriate WTF when you look at that team. That was my take for the day. It's hard to believe that after years and years and years of protests and complaints about this, they didn't have a backup lined up and ready to go. Like, at no point they considered that they would need to abandon the former team name due to like a diversionary tactic for bigger issues going on within the organization. Like, at no point anybody working for Dan Snyder was like, maybe we should just keep this in the back pocket in case we need to throw this out there to like a smoke bomb so we can get away. They had nothing lined up as a backup plan. Like, come on, somebody in that dysfunctional organization had to have something cooked up and like some, spec art drawn up or something that they could like just kind of bounce to in a pinch. And this is the pinch, and they had nothing. They punted.
Maybe they had a terrible name and the NFL just turned them down. And they're like, well, that's all we got. Sorry. Dylan, what's your take on the Washington team?
Football team?
Yes.
It's obviously hilarious. It's do we call them the football teams? Like, what do we, I'm used to calling teams like the Cowboys and the Eagles. So the football teams is, I guess, what we go with. I'm not sure, but it's weird because like Aaron was alluding to a little bit, somebody in the organization should have been on top of this, but knowing Dan Snyder, it's not surprising that they didn't have something just for backup as far as like, well, what are we going to do when this blows up? And, Dan Snyder's it's been years and years that people have been pining for a name change here. And it was always no, no, no. And now that the sponsors are starting to drop, he's like, all right, well, better change it. But to what, so, it reminds me of, I don't know if you guys ever played Tecmo Super Bowl, but before like licensing and all that kind of stuff, like you had to get permission to, name players and teams. So in Tecmo Super Bowl, you had the quarterback of the Eagles, which I think was Randall Cunningham at the time, but he was called QB Eagles in the game. And I think that this Washington football team is straight out of that. It's like 1910 style before they even had mascots. And, it's entertaining. I'm glad. I don't know if you guys saw that they're doing the Alabama Crimson Tide style of just putting numbers in lieu of a logo. I love that. I can't get enough of that. I thought that looked so cool. And so they got that going for them. The color scheme's going to stay the same. And, I'm sure it'll be good for jokes for a few weeks, but after a while, everyone's going to forget about it. And they've got, they had a month and a half before season's supposed to kick off, and now they got a name. So by 2021, they've got plenty of time to come up with something better, and it shouldn't be hard.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today, guys. So thanks for talking with all these topics to me. It's the first day in a while that we've actually had, newsworthy stuff to talk about on the Sports Grump instead of just musing about this or that of what could happen. So it's a nice change up. So thanks for joining me, Dylan. Thanks for joining me, Aaron. And if you're kind of curious out there in Radio Land, you're listening to 102.7 FM, KCHW, Northern Lights Public Radio.